My name is Aslam. This is a story from the time when I was about 13 or 14 years old. The neighborhood we lived in was situated at the back of a bustling market in the city. Most of the residents in the area were from the middle or lower class. However, there was an old mansion where, in earlier times, a man with the title of Grand Lord used to live. His lifestyle wasn't extravagant, but he always considered it his duty to write Grand Lord alongside his name. He was a middle-aged, heavy-set man. He rarely stepped out of the house except every afternoon when he would sit in the mansion's courtyard, surrounded by his friends, laughing loudly and chatting. Because of his title, many people, including beggars, orphanage agents, and various others soliciting donations, would often come to his door asking for help. Additionally, fortune tellers, astrologers, performers, and other such people would frequently visit his mansion, hoping to showcase their talents in exchange for some reward. The time I'm referring to was when an imposter used to come in various disguises. Sometimes he wore a khaki coat with pants, a leather bag slung over his shoulder, and glasses with tiny lenses, looking like a postal worker delivering a letter and collecting a fee from everyone. Other times he would appear as a bearded sage, wrapped in a loincloth with ash smeared over his body, holding a long iron stick with red eyes. He'd even come dressed as a woman in a red sari, carrying a basket and broom, pretending to argue with neighbors and act in a way that would make people believe she was fighting with everyone. I had a classmate named Adam. He was about a year younger than me, though taller, handsome and innocent-looking, but stubborn like a child. We both came from poor families. We were very good friends. After school, sometimes he would come to my neighborhood to play, and sometimes I would go to his place. One afternoon, while Adam and I were playing with a ball on the street outside Usam's mansion, we saw an old man walking toward us in a strange outfit. He was dressed like a traditional merchant, wearing a dhoti with a vermilion mark on his forehead. The man paused at the mansion's gate for a moment, then entered. I instantly recognized him. He was undoubtedly an imposter, but Adam was a bit taken aback. He had never seen such a person before. I teasingly asked him, "Adam, do you know who just entered the mansion?" Adam, "Some merchant, I think." "No, silly. That's an imposter." "An imposter?" "An imposter?" Adam said, looking somewhat surprised. "You don't know? These people dress in different disguises to show off their skills to rich people and get rewards." Then Adam asked, "So, does this person come every day?" "No, only once or twice a week. If they came every day, people would recognize them. The trick of an imposter is to act in such a way that people are fooled into believing they're real. That's why they don't stay in one city for more than 2 or 3 months." Adam asked, "Do they always get rewards?" I replied, "Not always. After doing this 15 to 20 times, they come one last time to say goodbye, and that's when they get rewarded. That's when they get their prize." "How much do they usually get?" "Not much. Sometimes $1 or $2. If Rice Azam gives them $5, that's considered a lot. The thing is, people don't value this craft much these days. In earlier times, rich people would give so much to these performers that they didn't have to worry about food for months. But nowadays, they're probably starving." Before I could say anything else, the imposter came out of the mansion's gate. Adam stared at him in surprise. The imposter smiled at us and then walked toward the market. As soon as the imposter turned his back, Adam whispered, "Aslam, let's follow him and see where he lives. What his house is like. He must have a makeup room somewhere. Maybe we can get closer to him and see what he really looks like." "Adam, don't be foolish. Who knows where he's going? We'd be wandering around aimlessly. Who knows how many other houses he has to visit?" But Adam didn't listen. He pulled me along. As I had said earlier, he was stubborn like a child. Reluctantly, I followed him. It was a summer evening, around 6 o'clock, with at least an hour and a half left until dark. Adam walked quickly, passing through one market after another. Whenever we passed a large mansion or a hall, he would casually enter, leaving me waiting outside for a few minutes. He also visited several large stores, but didn't stay for more than a minute. We had successfully kept ourselves hidden from the imposter, thanks to the crowd in the markets. But now we were entering an area where there were only a few people walking around. We didn't have to walk much farther. Soon we reached an area where the outer walls were lined with huts made of straw. The imposter reached the last hut, which was a little isolated, and there was a tattered cloth hanging from its door. Outside the hut, a small girl about 3 years old and a 5-year-old boy were sitting on the ground playing with stones. They excitedly shouted, "Dad's home! Dad's home!" and rushed to hug his legs. The imposter gently patted their heads, then moved the cloth aside and went inside the hut. I looked at Adam and asked, "What do you think now?" "Wait, he'll probably take off the merchant's clothes and come out in his real form. In this heat, there's no way he'd be sitting inside the hut for long." We waited for about 15 to 20 minutes when the cloth was pulled back, and a young man dressed in a simple white dhoti with a turban on his head came out. His old merchant's white mustache was gone, replaced by small black eyes. Adam whispered, "It's him! Same height, same build!" As we followed him, his walk was exactly the same as when he was pretending to be the merchant. He walked for a while along the wall, and then entered a lane that led back into the city. He stopped at a payan's shop, and we thought he was just stopping for a snack, but instead, he sat down at the shop as the payan vendor left. After the vendor left, the imposter served customers, preparing cigarettes in payan with impressive skill. It was like an art to him. We left the scene and went home. The next day was Sunday. I had planned to sleep in, but as soon as the sun rose, someone started calling my name and knocking on my door. I rushed downstairs and saw Adam. I groaned in frustration as I opened the door. "Aslam, get ready quickly." "What's the matter?" "Hurry, the imposter might leave early in the morning." He looked at me with pleading eyes and my heart softened. We hurried toward the imposter's hut. Adam had dreamt all night about seeing the imposter in various forms. We arrived at the hut just as the sun was rising. In daylight, we could see the poverty and dilapidation of the hut dwellers. The cloth that hung at the door was patched in several places. We passed the hut a few times, and each time, we heard children's voices and a few women's voices mixed in. After about 10 minutes, a man wearing a torn cloth and carrying a pitcher emerged from the hut. His beard and mustache were gone, and his face was tanned, making it hard to judge his age. "Now this is real. Let's go home. You've ruined my sleep with this chase." "But Aslam, wasn't he the imposter? I want to follow him a bit longer." I didn't argue. As we followed him, we reached a fence where he entered, and we stood on the other side watching. He went inside and milked a buffalo for an hour. After finishing, he brought the milk and left. "Well, now the truth is clear to you, Adam. Let's go home now. You've ruined my sleep for nothing." "But Aslam, where is the imposter now? He was a milkman. A milkman. Come on, let's follow him for a while longer." I decided it wasn't worth arguing with Adam. He was quite persistent when he made up his mind. We had been wandering around the hut area for almost half an hour when we noticed a horse-drawn carriage coming swiftly toward us. It stopped near the hut, and as the sound of the carriage grew louder, a man emerged from the hut. He was dressed in a khaki outfit similar to a carriage driver's attire. The carriage driver got down, and this man climbed into the carriage and expertly urged the horse forward. As the carriage began to move, the first man called out, "Make sure to bring the carriage to the station at exactly 2 o'clock. The second man nodded, and the carriage disappeared from sight. Adam said, "Well, now we know what this guy will be doing until 2 p.m. We have the day off, so we should be back here around 2:30 or 3. I didn't respond. The truth was, I was just as eager as Adam to find out what the imposter was really up to. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, Usama Narrations. Now let's get back to the story. We arrived back near the imposter's hut well before 3 p.m. As we stood there, we could hear children's voices and some women's voices, mixed with the occasional voice of a man inside the hut. We realized the imposter had returned home. We didn't have to wait long, and soon the imposter emerged, but this time in an entirely different guise. He wore a black cloak and a black turban, tied neatly with a distinctive flare. His neck was adorned with colorful prayer beads, and he had a dark, trimmed beard. His hair was spread out over his shoulders, and he carried a wooden chest under his arm. It looked as if today he was pretending to be a Sufi mystic. We quietly followed him as he entered the city. He passed through several markets, and before long, we arrived at the Grand Mosque, which was always bustling with activity in the afternoons. Vendors selling everything from children's clothes to sweets and charms filled the market. The imposter quietly joined the crowd, opened his wooden chest, and began calling out in a serious tone, "If your eyes are blurred, red, itchy, or have coal marks, or if your eyesight is weak, or you experience water in your eyes, or cannot see well at night, then use my specially made kohl, lightning eyeliner. I obtained this formula from a Sufi sage in Mecca. With the intention of serving humanity, I have priced it very reasonably, only 4 cents per bottle. Then I looked at Adam and said, Adam, look at this. Can you believe what we're seeing? We couldn't believe our eyes. He had truly started selling coal, just as he had sold his other products. A couple of men gathered around him, buying his coal and having it applied to their eyes. I whispered, we better leave now. I've had enough of this chase. Let's go back home. Adam, but Aslam, where did the imposter go? He was pretending to be a milkman. Come on, let's follow him a little longer. I didn't feel it was worth arguing with him anymore, so we continued following the imposter. So listeners, in the end, the truth of the imposter's life remained a mystery, a web of deception, transformation, and survival. We may never fully understand the lengths he went to or the countless personas he created, but one thing is certain, the art of deception is alive and well, hidden in plain sight. And sometimes it's the truth we choose not to see that's the most shocking of all.